I'm former DUI prosecutor Neil Schaus, and I'm here with former DUI police officer Michael Scafidi. We're both now DUI defense lawyers here at Schaus Law Group. And Mike, today I want to talk about out-of-state drivers who get a DUI here in California. And I mean, let's say, for example, some guy lives in Texas and he comes to California for a convention, gets a DUI, gets arrested, gets a citation to go to court. I guess the first question that he has is, does he have to come back to California for these court proceedings, or can he get a lawyer to handle it for him?
He can get a lawyer to handle it for him here in California, and he doesn't have to be present here in California. Also, for the DMV hearing, which is separate from the court case, administrative per se hearing, he's not required to attend. His appearance can be waived on the record, or he can attend telephonically with an agreement between himself, by and through his lawyers, and the Department of Motor Vehicles.
So basically, for this guy from Texas, in our example, I mean, there's a double benefit to getting a DUI defense lawyer. I mean, one is the guy doesn't have to come back to California for court. The other is his lawyer can fight the case in his absence and maybe get the charges reduced or dismissed.
That's correct. It's not necessary for him to be here physically for us to handle the court case or the Department of Motor Vehicle action.
And fight the charges.
And absolutely fight those charges.
Now, suppose that he does get convicted of a DUI or wet reckless, and the court requires him to do an alcohol program. And of course, here in California, it's a very set program that you have to do, let's say on a first-time DUI, AB 541. If he lives in Texas, it's not convenient for him to come do the program here. Can he do some equivalent type program there in Texas?
Through the court, he can. For example, the courts in California will allow a person to do the online class. There are several online programs that you can do that have the same syllabus and criteria. Also, the courts can allow a person who lives out of state to take an equivalent class in their home state.
So they don't have to come back for 90 days of alcohol school, for example.
That's correct.
Even as the out-of-state driver, you're entitled to a DMV hearing in California, right?
You are.
And if you lose that hearing, what would be the consequence to you?
California would deny your right to drive a motor vehicle in California for 4 months. And they would also notify your home state, in our example, Texas, which likely would enforce a suspension of your driver's license.
So even for someone who has an out-of-state license, if you get a DUI arrest in California, it's important to fight the case at the DMV because otherwise you may get a suspension even in your home state.
Well, I would agree with that. In fact, maybe even more important because of different rules and regulations in your home state, it may be more difficult to deal with a license suspension, let's say in Texas or some other state than it would be here in California.
Your home state might even take harsher action than California would have.
Correct. Maybe it's not 4 months for a first-time offense. It could be longer or there could be further restrictions.
Let me ask you this. What about somebody who's residing in California, but they have an out-of-state license? And we see this all the time. I mean, someone moves here from Nevada or Florida or New York, and they still have their valid license from their home state. They're living here now, but they just haven't had a chance or haven't taken the initiative to go to the DMV and get a California license. And now they get arrested for DUI. What is their situation? What consequences could they face?
Well, besides the consequences of the DUI itself and the administrative hearing for DMV and courts, they could wind up facing an additional charge of misdemeanor driving without a license if they've been living in California for 30 days or greater. Under California law, when someone changes residence and becomes a permanent resident of our state, they have 30 days to change their license from their former state and obtain a California driver's license. The section that covers that in the Vehicle Code is California Vehicle Code section 12500A, and it is a misdemeanor, which could require up to 6 months in county jail.
What success have you had as a DUI defense lawyer in defending clients from out of state who got a DUI here in California?
Well, what we typically do, and again, we have to separate defending the court case and defending the administrative action from DMV. Oftentimes, we'll use the DMV hearing as a discovery tool where we'll get the police reports even before the DA has them. We'll subpoena records to the DMV, including calibration and maintenance records. We'll subpoena law enforcement witnesses, lay witnesses, that will have to provide sworn testimony without a prosecutor there to guide them or help them. So we have them there on our own getting the sworn testimony. This often develops our case greatly and helps us understanding what the full facts of the case are, not just what's in the four corners of that police report. Oftentimes resulting in a set-aside at DMV where DMV doesn't take any action against our clients, and oftentimes resulting in dismissals or reduction of charge in the criminal case. So basically, someone from out of state, we do the same tactics for them. Everything that we can do for a full-time resident of the state, we will use the same defensive strategies that we have done so often to success to a person out of state as one of our own residents.
So the take-home message for someone who's from out of state, has an out-of-state license, gets a DUI here in California, is that a good DUI defense lawyer may be able to get the criminal charge reduced or dismissed, so they avoid a DUI and a criminal record, and may be able to avoid a license suspension being imposed in their home state.
That's correct.
And so it's just as important for them to get a good lawyer and fight the case as it would be for a California resident.
I would agree with that, Neil, 100%. I think in general, it's always critical that when you're facing criminal charges, especially involving DUI, which can be complex issues of law and science, that you hire a lawyer experienced in the area of DUI defense, both in the courts and, as importantly, in DMV.